Recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala I begin by expressing my condolences, first of all, our collective condolence in the court of the Imam of our time, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, then to all of our scholars, our fuqaha, our maraja al-zam around the world, and similarly to all of you, dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, upon the shahadat of this great Imam Jawad al-A'immah. As it's the night of shahadat, usually it's highly recommended to pray for the salamati of the Imam of our time, as he is the greatest azadar on the nights of azad, the nights of shahadat. Jazakumullah khair. So let's recite the dua for the salamati of the Imam all together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. For his hastening, please recite aloud salawat. Once again, please recite a louder salawat. Inshallah, each and every one of us, once again in our lives, have the tawfiq to visit the holy land of Qazimin, or if we haven't already been, may we also have the tawfiq to visit that holy land and perform the ziyarat of this great Imam of ours, known as Jawadul A'immah, the generous amongst the Imam Ma'asumin alayhi salam. And according to narrations, seeking help from this Imam, seeking our needs from this Imam, particularly for this dunya, for this world, as well as the hereafter, but particularly of this dunya, it's very beneficial to seek tawassul from this Imam. So those of us who have a lot of problems in our lives, we feel that we've reached dead ends in our lives, we feel that certain hajat of ours are not being fulfilled, then seeking tawassul with this Imam of ours, the 9th Imam, is very, very beneficial. And similarly, a lot of experiences of our mu'mineen, even in this day and age, have proven to this fact. A lot of the narrations similarly emphasize to this fact, that seeking tawassul with the Imam, whenever people face difficulties in their lives. And it's very interesting that when you go to Qazimin, you see that there's a lot of brothers and sisters from the Ahl Sunnah sect as well, who come and perform the ziyarah. They seek their hajat from this Imam. Whenever one of their family members is ill, they know, the people of Iraq, that if they seek tawassul from this Imam, he will help them, and he helps them with the affairs of this dunya. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to seek tawassul on this night. It's highly recommended. Some of our ulama stress, if a person recites Surah Al-Yasin and gifts it to Imam Jawad alayhi salam, then his hajat can be fulfilled. And this name, Al-Jawad alayhi salam, these names and these titles which are gifted to our Imam Ma'asumin alayhi salam, all of these names that we have of these Imams are selected by none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of these names which they have are in fact a description of one of their main attributes, one of their main fazail from their personality. It describes one of their greatest attributes. During the time of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, he was the display of all of that goodness and all of that generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon this earth for the mu'mineen, for humanity. Meaning those qualities within the personality of this Imam, particularly generosity, particularly kindness and giving, were very rich in the personality of the Imam. They were very constant in the Imam. There came a time where a person comes to Imam Jawad alayhi salam and Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, Ya Mawlai, I'm very empty-handed. Please gift me with something. He says, I'm a very needy person, Ya Imam. Please give me according to your capacity, according to your generosity, and according to the amount of mercy that you have, Ya Imam. The Imam looks at him and he says, I cannot do that. If you want me to gift you according to the capacity of my generosity, to the extent of my kindness, then that is impossible for me. Why is that impossible for the Imam? The Imam states, because my generosity is limitless. Because my generosity is attached to the limitless generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, if you want me to give according to my capacity, that's impossible for me to do. Because I'm attached to the endless kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot gift you without a limit. I cannot give you limitlessly because this dunya is limited. The people of this dunya are limited. I cannot do that. The man, he's very smart. He looks at the Imam and he says, Ya Imam, so please give me according to my worth, according to my limit, according to my capacity. And the Imam, straight away, he hands him a packet of 200 dinar of gold. 200 golden coins, dinar. Even at this time, it's very valuable, it's very weighty and very wealthy. So the Imam Jawad alayhi salam, is the display of the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So tonight I'd like to discuss 2 to 3 points inshallah regarding the 9th Imam. And I'd like to also include inshallah lessons of i'tiqad and a few of akhlaqiyat inshallah if we get the tawfiq. So Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So you might be familiar that Imam Riza alayhi salam has only one son. He only has one child. Although we have a few different narrations, but the most popular ones tell us that the 8th Imam, the Imam of Khurasan as we know, he married a woman by the name of Khayzaran, salamullah alayha, from the land of Misr, from the Egyptian lands. So the lands beginning from the African continent. And later on, the 8th Imam also refers to this wife of his as Rayhana. So one of her other names is also Rayhana, salamullah alayha. And it's one of the greatest adab actually to mention the mother of the Imam who we're commemorating. So this is Rayhana, salamullah alayha. So the 8th Imam, he marries this great noble woman, Khayzaran, and they don't have children for many, many years until the Imam reaches the age of 48. So Imam Riza alayhi salam becomes 48 years old. The Imam reaches Shahadat at the age of 55. So just imagine, you can calculate what the age of Imam Taqi alayhi salam is going to be. If the 8th Imam reaches Shahadat at the age of 55, he has his child at the age of 48. So when the appointment of Imamat comes to this 9th Imam who we are commemorating tonight, what age is he going to be? The age of 7. The age of 7 is Imam Jawad alayhi salam at the appointment of his Imamat. And because of this reason, many of the hardcore Shia, many of the firmest Shia, or many of the most Mawlai Shia of that time became doubtful. They became hesitant. They became confused. Many of these people became confused. They didn't know whether they should announce that this is my Imam as well. They didn't know whether they should pledge allegiance because they thought, this has never happened in history. Because they believed in the Imams who came before. None of those Imams became Imam as infants, as children. And for this reason, many cults came about around that time. One of those cults was known as Waqifiyya, who believed in 7 Imams. And the belief of these people is that Imam Kazim alayhi salam is the final Imam. Although, they don't exist today. History states that Waqifiyya, they dissolved around the 4th century. And regarding these groups within the Maktab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we have a handful of these groups. For example, we have Ismailis who believe in 6 Imams. We have Zaydiyas today who believe until, not Zaydi Sayyids, alhamdulillah, we have many of those as well. But we have Zaydiyas who believe until the third Imam. And many of those groups exist in places like Yemen today as well. But Zaydiyya believe until the third Imam, and they exist in places like Yemen. And they believe that after Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because no Imam was physically revolutionary, no Imam lifted his sword, no Imam engaged in war, therefore they took Zayd as the next Imam after Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But the Waqifiyya group, which was formed around the time of Imam Raza alayhi salam, dissolves around the 4th century. And 48 years after 48 years of the life of Imam Raza alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses him with this beautiful son by the name of Jawad. And the 8th Imam becomes really happy. The Shia around him become really happy. For 4 years the Imam is called from Ma'mun, who is the Khalif of the land of Khurasan, the apparent Khalif of the Muslimin of that time. He calls him, he escorts him with his soldiers. He takes Imam Raza alayhi salam to the land of Khurasan. A very interesting fact is that the 8th Imam, neither does he take his wife, nor does he take his children, nor does he take his family to the land of Khurasan. He comes all alone, and he lives in Khurasan for 3 years. However, what's also very interesting is that the land where the Imam is taken, the land of Marv, is a part of Turkmenistan today. So Khurasan was on a much greater level at that time. So they call the Imam to this land, they call him to the land of Marv, and Ma'mun was the Khalifa of Khurasan. The Imam remains in Iran for 3 years. And throughout these 3 years, Imam Jawad alayhi salam is separated from his father, Imam Raza alayhi salam. And when the news of the Shahadat of the 8th Imam reaches the city of Medina, when the 8th Imam becomes a Shaheed, his news reaches the land of Medina. And this is one of the issues that I wanted us to go over. The first and the greatest challenge and the most problematic situation which formed within the Shia communities of that time, a problem which didn't exist until this day. What was that problem? The problem is that they don't know whether they should refer to an infant child as their Imam. Because we as the Shia so far, we've had every single Imam who we've had has been an adult, a person of a greater age. We've had 8 Imams. So, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, the 3rd Imam, Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All of these Imams were in ages of adults. They weren't children. So this is a time where arguments began, debates began, and even amongst the most popular and the most firmest of Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, whilst they were mourning in the house of the 8th Imam within the land of Medina, one of the companions, one of the well-known companions of the 8th Imam, he gets up from his place, Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman, and he says to the people, he says, stop mourning. He says, stop your crying. Da'u al-buka, stop your crying, O mu'mineen. Because we need to start thinking about our current Imam. And Imam Jawad alayhi salam is sitting there as well. Although all of them have heard the words of Imam Raza alayhi salam, he's already appointed Imam Jawad alayhi salam. But this unfortunate Khalifa, unfortunate companion at that time, he lacks basirat. And he says, this child cannot be the Imam of our time. He is 7 years old, so therefore let's appoint a supervisor, let's appoint a representative on his behalf, a spokesperson, until he reaches a more mature age. Rayyan ibn Salt, one of the more prominent companions of the Imam, he stands up from his place, and this is true basirat. He grabs hold of the collar of Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman and he strikes him in his face. He says, do you not have any shame? How dare you say this about the Imam? Imam Jawad alayhi salam is right here. The issue of Imamat doesn't change whether the age is smaller or greater, because these are the words of the 8th Imam. This is the son of Imam Raza alayhi salam. He is the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is an Imam for us. How dare you say these words in his presence and in our presence? So these kinds of clashes and conflicts started to rise around that time. A lot of doubts spread within the hearts and the minds of mu'mineen. And who is the one who puts an end to these doubts is none other than Imam Jawad alayhi salam. On that same day, 7 years old, the Imam rises, he sits upon the mimbar, and the Imam recites a sermon while all of the mu'mineen are looking towards him in a state of doubt, in states of confusion. The Imam recites his khutbah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ja'a ila al-mimbar. The Imam sits upon the mimbar, and the people are in a state of confusion. Can a 7-year-old child really be an Imam for us? Can he really fill the position of his father? Can he really address these nitty-gritty Islamic issues that we have? But dear mu'mineen, when it comes to imamat, as we said in the words of the 8th Imam, we as followers of their wilayah do not change in our acceptance to their wilayah, whether they are smaller in age or whether they are greater in age. Why? Because these are selected hujjaj on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us. Similarly, Nabi Isa alayhi salam in the Quran is mentioned. Nabi Isa alayhi salam is mentioned in the Quran. Inni Abdullah atani al-kitab waja'alani nabiyya. He says in the lap of his mother, a newborn baby, he doesn't say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall make me a messenger. Rather, he says, وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. Allah has made me a Nabi for you. And similarly, in this same Quran, which all these Muslims believe, but unfortunately they hold objection to the idea of how can you have an infant Imam. This same Quran teaches us about Hazrat Yahya alayhi salam, a prophet who is an infant at the time. وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ السَّبِيًّا. Sabi meaning an infant. Imam Jawad alayhi salam, so at this time he sits upon the mimbar and all the Shia are watching him very carefully. He recites Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ana Muhammad ibn Ali al-Radha alayhi salatu wassalam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ana al-Jawad. I am the son of Ali ibn Musa al-Radha alayhi salam, and my title is Jawad. Ana al-alim bi-ansab an-nas fil aslab. To those of you who say that I am not an Imam, all of you who are sitting here today, all of you who are sitting in the masjid today, the Imam says to them, I am able to read the biography of every single one of you. I am able to tell you about your birth. I am able to tell you more about your history than you know. I am able to tell you about your present and about your future. Who is behind you, what is within you, and whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you children or not. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does give you children, what kind of children will those be? Will those be pious children, or will they be disobedient from the pathway of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? What those actions of those children will be. And exactly when you will pass from this world. So this becomes a very shaky moment for those who had a doubt in their hearts. The Imam, our Imam Ma'asumin alayhi salam, they have 3 qualities which the rest of humanity does not have. One is the issue of ismat, that the Imams are ma'asum. They do not engage in disobedience against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't sin in the court of Allah. And number 2 is they have ilmul ghaib. By the power and by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they receive some news which the rest of humanity do not have in their minds or hearts. Number 3, they have mu'ajizat, they have karamat, which we refer to as wilayatul takwini. For example, you see a dried up tree from its roots, a very dried tree, but with the ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them, they are able to make this tree look bright, green and fresh. One of the abilities that are given to the Imam Ma'asumin alayhi salam. For example, they have the ability to split the sea into 2. Nabi Musa alayhi salam had the ability to split the sea into 2. Nabi Isa alayhi salam has the ability to bring to life those who are dead. Again, this is with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you say this to fellow Muslimin, they say, but this is with the permission of Allah. But dear brothers, did we ever say that those powers and those abilities that our Imam Ma'asumin alayhi salam have are without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, we didn't. We said it's with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Imams are distinguished by 3 things: Ismat, Ilmul Ghaib, and Wilayatul Takwini. And these qualities the Imam presents in himself. while he's sitting on the minbar. Then the Imam looks towards the mu'mineen and he says, Ana a'lam bis-sara'irikum. I have knowledge of what's within each and every one of you. I know exactly what you're thinking. So clearly, no ordinary human being can make this claim. I cannot make this claim. No other scholar can make this claim. No knowledgeable professor can make this claim. وَبِالزَّوَاهِرِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ صَائِرُونَ إِلَيْهِ. And with this kind of strategy, the Imam responds to their doubts. He addresses different debates, different topics, and huge gatherings of scholarly gatherings. The Imam addresses, he clarifies the doubts for the Muslimin. Please recite aloud salawat. So we have three Imams who were infant at the beginning of their Imamate. One is Imam Jawad alayhi salam at the age of 7, Imam Hadi alayhi salam at the age of 8, and our final Imam Ajjalallahu ta'ala Faraj al-Sharif, Imam Zamana Ajjalallahu ta'ala Faraj al-Sharif, at the age of 5. And as we said, the 8th Imam states that we don't have the concept of a greater or smaller Imam, that the age doesn't affect. The age doesn't affect the authority over the mu'mineen. The Imam is the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was the first point that I wanted to mention regarding the Imam, that at the beginning of his Imamat, he was faced with this challenge, that the mu'mineen, the Muslimin had become doubtful in their situation. And as I mentioned, there was three main challenges which the Imam faced. It was a very difficult situation. The first was the issue of the Waqifiyya group, this ideology and this belief which unfortunately some of the brothers of the 8th Imam, some of the brothers of Imam Raza alayhi salam promoted this ideology of Waqifiyya. As you all know, Imam Qasim alayhi salam had a lot of children. So a lot of members of the household of Imam Qasim alayhi salam promoted, unfortunately, this ideology of Waqifiyya. Uncles of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. History states that the Imam had around 17 to 18 uncles from the lineage of Imam Qasim alayhi salam, and these are some of those people who promoted the ideology of Waqifiyya. And some of these personalities were really well-known personalities amongst the Muslimin. Imam Jawad alayhi salam becomes the Imam of the Shia at the age of 8, whilst there's also another great personality such as Ali ibn Ja'far, the son of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. This son of the 6th Imam, he is the age of 80 at that time. Not only is he the uncle of Imam Raza alayhi salam, but he's in a way the grandfather of Imam Jawad alayhi salam as well. At the age of 80, he is a well-known faqih of his time. He is a well-known scholar of his time. In other words, the grandfather of the 9th Imam, the grandfather of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Yet he stands up from his place whenever the Imam comes in. He kisses the hands of the Imam while the Imam is 7 years old. A narration states that he's giving dars, he's giving a dars of fiqh to his students. An 80-year-old son of, from the time of Imam Sadiq, his beard is white, and when Imam Jawad alayhi salam comes in, he starts to kiss the hands of Imam Jawad. He pauses his dars. And the students, they find this very strange. They say to him, listen, this isn't good for you. This isn't good for your criteria, your age. Within this society, your hairs are white. You're a very knowledgeable individual. You shouldn't be doing this. He says to them, listen, if me at my old age, with all of my knowledge, and with all of my white hairs and my white beard, if despite all of this ilm, this limited knowledge that I have, despite all of this, if I have not been selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the hujjat to the mu'mineen, and Allah has selected this young child by the name of Jawad alayhi salam, then surely Allah has seen something great in him. Surely Allah sees something better in him. So therefore it's necessary for you and I to obey him. Imam Raza alayhi salam, we said, has 17 to 18 uncles, 17 to 18 brothers, 17 to 18 sons from the lineage of Imam Kazim alayhi salam. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, he says, he could have selected one of them. So he began to debate with these groups of Zaydiyas, these groups of Waqifiyya and Ismailis, and these different groups. He began propagating the imamat of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Please recite aloud salawat. So, upon the birth of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, one of the reasons that the 8th Imam states that there hasn't been a more blessed birth for our Shia, there hasn't been a more blessed birth for our Shia than the birth of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. One of the reasons that the 8th Imam states this, Marhum Majlisi, he gives a reason for this. So in this hadith, the 8th Imam states, هَذَا الْمَوْلُودَ الَّذِي لَمْ يُولَدْ, a birth hasn't come to place since history until now, which is more blessed for the mu'mineen until the birth of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And someone can ask, Ya Mawla, how can you say this? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was born. Was his birth not blessed? Of course it was. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, why didn't you say this about him? Why is it that you've only said it about Imam Jawad alayhi salam? And one of the answers for that is because this is the first and most astonishing kiramat for the Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, that a child becomes an imam for society. When Imam Jawad alayhi salam becomes imam at such a young age, the imamat of his father, Imam Raza alayhi salam, because remember, the 8th Imam's imamat is also being put under question by these groups of Waqifiyya. They doubt in the imamat of Imam Raza alayhi salam as well, despite him becoming a shaheed. But once Imam Jawad alayhi salam is born, the doubts in regards to the imamat of Imam Raza alayhi salam are put to one side. Those doubts regarding the birth and the imamat of Imam Hadi alayhi salam, if he's going to be an imam at the age of 8, then no one's going to question that. Why? Because Imam Jawad alayhi salam has already clarified that. So one of the other reasons is that the reason for Imam Jawad alayhi salam's birth to be the most blessed for the mu'mineen is because he completes the ring of the Shia. He clarifies for the mu'mineen that if the present imam, if the living imam is going to become an imam at the age of 5, then Imam Jawad alayhi salam has already clarified that that's possible. So he paves the way for the zuhur of the Imam alayhi salam. So this is one of the barakat of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Please recite aloud salawat. Although we said there were some firm Shia all along, since the Shahadat, from the time of Imam Raza until the time of Imam Jawad, who didn't doubt for a single second. They were always firm when it came to obeying the wilayah. Whether the Imam was an infant, whether the Imam was old, whether the Imam seemed physically weak, whether different situations came along, there were certain Shia who had always been firm. So Imam Jawad alayhi salam is an imam for his Shia for 17 years. He reaches imamat at the age of 7, and at the age of 25 he reaches shahadat, and he is the youngest imam that we have who is a shaheed, Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And within these 17 years of his, he is faced with 2 khulafa from Banu Abbas, one being Ma'mun and one being Mu'tasim. So 15 years under the rulership of Ma'mun and 2 years under the rulership of Mu'tasim. After the shahadat of Imam Raza alayhi salam, because Ma'mun was really hated in the eyes of the Shia community, he didn't have the confidence to assassinate Imam Jawad alayhi salam, because the Shia had become aware. They were already so hateful of Ma'mun. They were planning to make a revolution against Ma'mun. He knew that if he decides to martyr Imam Jawad alayhi salam as well, then his khilafat will crumble down. Please recite aloud salawat. Please recite another salawat. So in order to save his khilafat, in order to save his throne, he decides to use a softer approach, a more diplomatic approach towards Imam Jawad alayhi salam. He invites Imam Jawad alayhi salam to Baghdad because after the shahadat of the 8th Imam, the capital of the Khilafat of Ma'mun of Banu Abbas transferred from Khurasan to Baghdad. So he invites the Imam to Baghdad, and when the Imam reaches there, Ma'mun treats him very kindly. He treats him so kindly that he even offers his daughter to marry Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And in reality, this offering of marriage and this marriage was a political move from Ma'mun. He thought that because he is under threat of Shia already since the Shahadat, since the assassination of the Imam, it would be a smart move for me to befriend Imam Jawad alayhi salam and show the people that I am the father-in-law of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And therefore there will be no reason for them to make a revolution against me anymore. So popularity within Shia, this was one of the reasons. Another reason was to spy upon the Imam within his own household, to watch over the affairs of the Imam through his daughter, through the daughter of Ma'mun. And of course the Imam, we said, has ilm al-ghaib. He knew very well about these plots. The Imam was aware. But because a revolution and because clashes between the Mu'mineen and the forces of Ma'mun hadn't began physically yet, the Imam decides that by accepting this proposal, it will help reduce the pressure of the government of Ma'mun upon the Mu'mineen of that time. So because they were already cracking down upon the Mu'mineen after the Shahadat, the Imam decided that by this marriage, the pressure upon the Shia communities from the government of Ma'mun will be coming down, it will be reduced. So Ma'mun comes to the belief that Imam Jawad alayhi salam is with us, and this eventually helps remove the pressure of his policies against the Shia communities. And because of this marriage, the Imam was also able to carry out his religious as well as his cultural affairs. His religious and his cultural influence within societies of Shia and non-Shia alike. So this marriage is a political move, and Imam Jawad alayhi salam, knowing very well he didn't have a single child from this daughter of Ma'mun known as al-Fazl. The Imam doesn't have a single child from al-Fazl. Rather, the Imam marries another noble and very religious, a very pious and practicing Muslim woman by the name of Samana al-Maghribiya salamullah alayha, through whom he has the next Imam, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Please recite a loud salawat. So the Imam doesn't have a single child from the daughter of Ma'mun. The Imam marries Samana al-Maghribiya. He has Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam from that marriage. And he spends 15 years during the Khilafat of Ma'mun and his final 2 years under the rulership of Mu'tasim. And when the Imam marries the daughter of Ma'mun, he was around the age of 9, according to history. He remains in Baghdad for a short period of time, but he returns to Medina. And the Imam spends the rest of his years in the city of Medina except for his final year. When the Imam reaches the age of 25 during the rulership of Mu'tasim, Mu'tasim calls him back from Medina to Baghdad because he realizes the influence and the potential that the Imam is causing harm to his government by being so influential within the Islamic capital of Medina. So this time the treatment of Mu'tasim becomes much harsher towards Imam Jawad alayhi salam. He calls him back to Baghdad, and because he was a very corrupt person, Mu'tasim, it's said about him that he was very influenced by those people around him. So now Imam Jawad alayhi salam, during his imamat, he knew very well that this current era is not one of a physical war against the Taghut. The Imam knew very well that this is an era, this is a time of a soft war against the Taghut, a time of a cultural war against the Taghut, a war of cultures. So this is something that we need to pay attention to in history. The Imam knew that this is an era where it's necessary to educate the Shia. It's necessary to educate the Muslimin. It's a time where the mobilization and spreading of the Shia is more of a necessity. And especially, I'd like for all of you to, inshallah, pay attention. It's a time where the Imam built upon the framework of his representatives. So from the time of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, after the battle of Karbala, after the tragedy of Karbala, our Imam Asumin alayhi salam didn't have enough Shia around them, because I believe we've mentioned this before as well, that the top graded Shia, the most official Shia, were martyred in Karbala. And similarly, after the event of Karbala, the second most official category of Shia were also martyred in the uprising of Mukhtar. Some of those were martyred in the uprising of the Tawabin in the city of Kufa, who waged war against Ibn Ziyad in vengeance of Sayyid al-Shuhada. So Imam Sajjad alayhi salam didn't have a handful of friends or companions, barely a handful. And so the Imam works towards building a network of firm, powerful, knowledgeable, pious and religious followers of the Maktab of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. In a narration it says that during the time of Hajj, the fourth Imam states that we Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam do not even have 20 Shia who we can claim love us. So Imam Sajjad alayhi salam begins to create different channels, different representatives in different lands around the region as points of references towards the Imam. And from then, each and every network, as the Imams passed on one after the next, this network gradually progressed since the time of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam until this time of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. It's said that these three Imams, known as Abna Riza, the sons of Imam Riza alayhi salam, these three Imams, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th, until Imam Askari alayhi salam, they really worked upon progressing and expanding this network of Shia globally. Whether it was the land of Egypt, so across the region, whether it was the land of Egypt, whether it was Morocco, known as Marrakesh at that time, whether it was Bahrain, whether it was Hijaz, known as Saudi Arabia today, whether it was Yemen, throughout the whole land of Iran, the Imams had really fortified their influence through different representatives, through a whole channel of networks of scholars, of their spokespeople in different lands and different places. So during this time, which we usually know as, we usually aren't familiar, to be honest, with the 9th, the 10th and the 11th Imams' lives, because we don't study them. But in reality, this is the time where the network really progressed. This is the time where a true, realistic revolution took place across the region. So, this networking, dear Mu'mineen, is the basis of the marja'iyyah that we have today. In the Ghaibat al-Kubra of Imam Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif, please recite the salawat. This marja'iyyat which you and I know today, the basis of this is this creating of channels after channels, one Imam after the next, creating representatives in different regions, in different lands, the basis of marja'iyyat that we have today. The Imam says to one of his companions, Aban, ijlis fil masjid wa aftin nas. O Aban, sit in the masjid and give fatwas for the people. Then the Imam states, for surely I love to see people like you within our Shia communities. So, of course, the same methodology is not even more important in Ghaibat al-Kubra. If the Imam is alive and he says that I love to see fuqaha like you giving fatwas to our mu'mineen, then how important do you think it is for you and I today? Please recite aloud salawat. So, during the time of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, many debates and many discussions, many religious gatherings, scholarly gatherings took place. And every time these scholarly gatherings took place, there was a lot of great scholars from different sects. There were Christian scholars amongst them. There were different denominations from the Sunni sect amongst them. There were Zaydiya scholars amongst them. whenever it would come to the end of these scholarly gatherings, every single one of those scholars would humble themselves before our Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And one person expresses his opinion. Mu'tasim, he organizes a scholarly gathering, and the topic of the discussion is that in an Islamic system, if a thief is to steal someone else's property, we all know that according to riwayat and according to the Quran, the punishment of that is that their hand is cut. So the topic discussion was that if their hand is to be cut, then which part of their hand is to be cut? One scholar makes a claim that the whole hand must be cut from the wrist, the whole hand must be cut off. And he gives his own dalil for that, he gives his own reasoning for that. Another scholar says, no, this is wrong. He says, because the person uses his whole arm to thieve someone else's property, so therefore the whole arm has to be cut off. Mu'tasim sees that these scholars, they can't come to an agreement, so he asks from Imam Jawad alayhi salam. He looks towards the Imam, he says, what is your opinion? The Imam realizes that if he speaks now, it is going to cause a lot of jealousy, a lot of hatred within the hearts of these scholars around him. The Imam says, "O Mu'tasim, excuse me from this discussion. Excuse me from this discussion." Mu'tasim says, "Ya ibn Rasulullah, you're a great asset for us. You're very knowledgeable. We would love to hear your opinion." So then the Imam gives his opinion. Please recite a salawat. The Imam states that because we use the palm of our hands to perform sujood in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, therefore cutting the palm of the hand cannot be done. He says we need the palm of our hands while we perform the sujood of Allah. We need our forehead, we need our knees, we need our toes, we need the palms of our hands. These are the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which He's gifted to us when we perform His sujood. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ. These are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of the scholars very closely, they listen to his dalil, they listen to his reasoning. Mu'tasim listens to his reasoning, and they all agree. They say that his dalil, his reasoning, the evidence that he's presenting it can't be denied. Everything he's saying is correct. The main scholar in that discussion, he becomes really jealous, because this is the top scholar, the Qazi on behalf of the government of Mu'tasim. He becomes really jealous. He has a hatred in his heart for the Imam from there on. Literally a young child from the members of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam has ridiculed me. I have a white beard and I'm supposed to be the greatest scholar, but he's ridiculed me. A few days later, he goes to Mu'tasim and he says to him that, "O Mu'tasim, do you realize that your government of Banu Abbas is being put at threat? Do you want to remain Khalifa or not?" Mu'tasim says, "Of course I want to remain Khalifa. Why? What's the matter?" He says, "If you want to remain Khalifa, then this member of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, this young man by the name of Jawad, he's becoming a threat to your government." He explains to him, he says that, "Do you not see how influential he was that day? He's become so influential amongst the scholars. He is so influential in the city of Medina. If you keep him alive, then your government will come to an end." So from there on, he and Mu'tasim, they create a plot to assassinate Imam Jawad alayhi salam. How did they do this? They do this through the member from their household, the daughter of Ma'mun, al-Fazl, who was already jealous within the house of Imam Jawad alayhi salam that she doesn't have a child from his lineage, that he has another wife by the name of Samana who has a noble child, Imam Hadi alayhi salam. She becomes really jealous. So they start to plot, and eventually she poisons our Imam alayhi salam. In order for us to take our hearts and minds to Qazimin, please recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Assalamu alayka أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Take your hearts to Qazimin, Ya Wajihan عند الله اشفع لنا. O Imam al-Jawad, how oppressed you are in your own household, O son of Zahra, very similar to your mother Fatima. You left this world at a very young age, Ya Mawla. As your heart burns with the poison, O my beloved Imam, did you call out to your mother Zahra? No matter how much you called out for water, they didn't respond to you, Ya Mawla. Your wife doesn't respond to you. She says, I won't allow you to drink a single drop of water. The Imam, according to the narrations, Imam al-Jawad cries in his final moments, and he calls out, Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. O my Imam, did your mind go to Karbala? Ya Imam al-Jawad, I know it must have been very difficult for you to bear the thirst and poison in your final moments, Ya Ibn Zahra. But you didn't have to bear a 6-month-old baby by the name of Ali al-Asghar, for whom you'd have to ask for water, Ya Imam. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on the day of Ashura, on the plains of Karbala, he calls out to the enemies of Allah, O people, if you don't show any mercy towards me, Hussein, then show mercy to this child, Ali Asghar. He's dying of thirst. Until Umar bin Saad looks towards Harmala. He says, Oh Harmala, what are you waiting for? My beloved Imam al-Hussein on the plains of Karbala, he's holding on to his beloved Ali al-Asghar until he feels blood beginning to pour from the throat of Ali. The Imam calls out 3 times, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Assalamu ala al-Husayn وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Allah, we ask you بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها, firstly to allow us once again the ziyarat of Qazimin of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Oh Allah, do not allow us for a single moment to be separated from our Imam Asmin alayhi salam, from the pathway of the Imam of our time, Ajalallah ta'ala Faraj al-Sharif. Oh Allah, we ask you to give strength and assistance to the Muslimin and all the mu'mineen around the world. Oh Allah, we ask you to give annihilation to all of the Zalimeen. Oh Allah, we ask you بحق الزهراء وأبيها to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time. Oh Allah, we ask you by the sanctity of the Chadar of Fatima al-Zahra to allow us to be of those who say labbaik to the call of our Imam, and inshallah allow us the tawfiq of shahadat upon his pathway. Please recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
गम मौलत भी तेरा